Hey guys, it's Gabby. I am back with another Gabby Reviews live video. Today we are doing Made by Design episode 6, and this one's entitled The Pioneer. So it's about an interior designer. We're going to go through her story. But while I am recording the video, I am getting this wonderful shelf behind me together. So I needed to bring this in because I have a lot of books and I am running out of space in the office. They don't fit. So I'm bringing my leisure books and stuff that's not necessarily business related. I'm bringing it all out, bringing it down. I'm going to show it off um, so everybody can see. So what I'm going to do right now is just separate because I just have all the books just together, mixed. They're not organized in any kind of way. I just got a bunch of books that I threw on a shelf because they need to be put away. Um, but now I want to actually organize them. So there's fiction, then there's nonfiction, and then I'm going to do like a spiritual nonfiction section because I just have varied interests. Some of them are my husband's books. They're not all mine, but the majority of them are mine. They're mostly mine. So I mean I got all kinds of stuff. So I got Narnia. I got old books from old series from 8th grade, the Chronicles of Prydain. I got that. I have a catalog from an art exhibit that I visited in Baltimore. Black abstract art, which was actually really good, by the way. If you missed it, I'm sorry. It was some really good stuff there. So I kept that. And then I have, spiritual books, High on the Hog. I have Tabitha Brown, because I love Tabitha. I have, let's see, Bryony Fisher, because I like mysteries. And this is good. And I learned about this book. Well, I learned about this character from the series Miss Fisher's Mysteries, I think it was called. It was on Netflix for a while, and now it's on Acorn. But that's how I got introduced to it, through Netflix. So I got that, and then just a bunch of other stuff. This is Cradle to Cradle about sustainability and going green. So there's a bunch of different books. So as I'm getting that organized, I'm going to be watching this and reviewing it with you like I've been doing, and we're going to talk about it after. All right, here we go. The Pioneer. Let's go. Play. Let's start off ready too. Start off pump.
Totally fascinated by that world of design and how very subliminally how people function and interact and entertain in spaces.
The look is great. I like how it looks so far. Doom, dum, dum, dum. You gotta love a good intro song. Dun, dun, dun.
We're influenced by our cultures and how cultures differ. The
We
Western
are
culture
influenced by our
is
cultures.
completely different from the Eastern culture, different from the African culture.
Yes.
And today, I believe it's our responsibility as designers, no matter in what sphere, be it fashion, interior design, architecture, in how we engage one another, and the cultural nuances that are so important in how we decide. Africans, as a race, are very inclusive. We're very hospitable and inclusive people, and that is constantly demonstrated in how we entertain people, how we engage people.
African culture is inclusive. I believe that.
So
Um,
behavior, I always found really
even just being
Fascinating.
just
I
Black
think it's also quite
American, there's
interesting to
always
tell
this,
that story
hey, we got to include
of
people, like you
what
don't want to leave
influenced
nobody
our
out, just as
decisions
Black
as
people that we're
creative
just naturally gifted with that.
design space.
I love her work so
My name
far.
is Munishoni Barrett. I'm an interior designer by profession. I studied interior design in the early 80s when it was
Muni
practically
Shonibara
unheard
is
of.
how she pronounced it. Munira is
I'm
the
the
whole
first
name.
and oldest of 8 children. I had a really exciting and
She the oldest to
adventurous
8.
childhood because my father was in the foreign
That's a
service,
lot.
so we traveled and moved all over the place. Secondary school was in Lagos. I went to Queen's College. And after Queen's College, went to Ahmadu University and studied industrial design. I majored in textile design. Finished university, taught fine art at the Federal School of Arts and Science for a year, and then
Mm.
I went to Italy, Florence, to study interior design. At the time, my father
She
just
studied interior design in
toyed around because
Florence.
interior design was a
Secret.
relatively
I
unknown
always wanted to study
profession,
design in
and he
Italy
couldn't understand why we didn't
for
get into the
years.
mainstream
One
professions
day
like
I'm going to go.
architecture or teaching or medicine. But I've always loved and been totally fascinated by that world of design and how, very subliminally, how
Mm.
people function and interact and entertain in spaces, and just recognizing how maybe it's from living a very sort of checkered childhood, from moving from place to place and being introduced to various cultures and various people.
Mm. Culture really does
In my
define
design journey,
design.
I
and
believe that
and having that
having
expansive
studied
knowledge or that
industrial
expansive
design, industrial
experience of
design
different culture
exposes you to
really
various
changes.
aspects of design, textiles, graphics, um, arts and crafts. There's a connection between all of that and interiors. Philosophically, I think there's a very strong, as I said, a very eclectic influence from having lived in Cuba, in
Ooh,
Canada, in
she lived in
Europe,
Cuba.
and various places in Africa as well, Ghana, Conakry. And I believe the fascination is in sort of trying to marry that Western exposure and
Hmm.
our own African exposure, and recognizing that um, they can all work beautifully together. The Western palette. So, what's my design philosophy of journey? I
Hmm.
tend to start with the neutrals or the natural colors. So, my base colors are normally the grays, the beiges, the taupes. And where I've agreed with the client to introduce the African vibrancy into the
Hmm.
execution of design,
So her
and using the opportunity to
the way
use
that she goes about design is about taking those
textiles,
neutral colors,
graphics,
those natural palettes, and
sculpture,
making those the base, and then
paintings,
building
and
up
fusing it all together.
African accents on top of that,
It
which I
works.
think is very interesting. Her work is beautiful.
I studied art history in school, so one saw the evolution of how important and vital spaces are from cavemen to today.
Right.
So when we really
The
think about
study
it,
of art history really does lend to
because of our
understanding
intricate
the
manipulation
uses behind
works of
spaces and why
inhabited
interior design, while
engaged in
technically is
furnishings.
a new
That's the
industry,
first step. When
it's
I
been
really think
around for
about it now,
generations.
my father, I also watched wherever we were, I watched people come and go and furnish the government homes that we lived in. And there were times when I really felt like interrupting or getting involved in the chairs and carpeting and colors that the contractors used in furnishing our spaces. I wasn't always very happy with it, but because, of course, it had nothing to do with it, one couldn't really get involved. So I suppose there was always that need to say, no, 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 it can look better than this. This isn't the best outcome for this space. So I believe that fascination started there. That's just that need to want to move, to get involved and participate in how a space is decorated. I believe it's from not being satisfied with the contractors that one saw came into furnishing a lot of the
This
residences
is an
that we
amazing
lived in.
book.
due to my father's work. So after school, and I was sure after teaching at the Federal School of Arts and Science, I was sure I didn't want to teach. The other option was working with a
She was
textile
sure she didn't
company.
want to teach.
That was where I did
And
my
I
F4. I
understand.
did my youth course
There's
in a
something with
textile company
teaching.
called UNTM in
It's not
Abeokuta. I was
necessarily the
always so
work
sure that I didn't want to
or the
pursue that
teaching. It's usually the other stuff that has to
so it
go
was
along with the
both
teaching.
of
And
my
it's just
options,
like, I'm
either to
not a
teach
teach. I'm
fine
not
art
teaching.
or to work
I'm
in
not
the
teaching. I feel her
textile
on that.
company or to study interior design. And I believe it's that adventurous spirit in me that decided when I've experienced the first two, I know what it's like to work in a textile company, I know what it's like to teach fine art. How about exploring and going into that unknown territory and find out what that's like? My father was totally against it. So I had to
Mm.
go to Federal Ministry of Education and get a scholarship. So I actually got a scholarship to study interior design in Florence. And it was
Wow.
after
So she
getting the
had to get a
scholarship,
scholarship to study
starting
interior design
my
because
course,
her
that my
father
father
was
came to
against
visit.
it.
I thought, wow, you really were determined to do this.
It really is
And he came curiously. He became my first customer. And to this day,
a different
my
industry.
most loyal client.
He became her first customer after she went and she did the work and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I have several mentors. It's been a really exciting journey. Inspiration in terms of boldness and going for what you believe in spite of the challenges and obstacles that one is going to encounter. My father is a great source of inspiration. My mother, because her attitude and philosophy is sky is the limit. There's nothing you can't accomplish with. And it's something she's taught all her children and all of us, her children, and now her grandchildren. Mentors, I break my mentors down to the various categories. So I've got mentors in the design space. I've got mentors when I want financial advice. I've got mentors when I require the HR aspect of, you know,
Mm.
solutions. I've got various mentors for various situations.
I love
I've
that she has
decided
multiple mentors and not just one, and that
what
she's
child will be
taken
best to
it
do. Just go
to
to the
make
people
sure
that
that
have always
she's
done it and do it well
gotten
and
mentors
ask
for all these
for
different
their
parts of
guidance.
what she feels like she needs. Finding a mentor can be difficult, but having one
As an interior
is
designer that started practicing in
just
the very
wonderful.
early 80s, 1984, I believe that it's my responsibility to celebrate, to acknowledge the truly rich cultural heritage and contribution we have as Africans have made and continue to make, and the influences, as a matter of fact, that we Africans continue to have on the rest of the world. Picasso was predominantly influenced by African arts. That was the influence. Today, the Dutch print Ankara is the African influence. So we've got to begin to acknowledge and
Mm.
how powerful African influence is. And I believe that it is a responsibility that we all have
So having the
to
responsibility to acknowledge
expose and preach
the
narrative
African
that says
culture,
that
really,
one of our greatest
acknowledge
challenges
it
as
as a
Africans
base of
is not
inspiration and
having
motivation for
documented
other things,
anything.
other people, other
I
culture, other
remember
artists
growing
is
up,
very
my
important. And
father
to
would
stand up
meet
to show
my
people what that
grandfather's
is, I
fathers
think it's really
in
important. And I
and
think that's what
there I
she's
would
doing
find the skins and heads of the
without
lions
really
that he had
trying to
hunted.
do it.
Maybe not as he wasn't thinking of displaying them at the time as art, but more like as a trophy. But that just begins to demonstrate how in the homes in those days we used our fabrics, we used our own chairs to decorate, to adorn our spaces. So we have to begin to expose and share all of that with the rest of the world. So as a pioneer in this space, and my primary goal and responsibility is begin to talk about that, about the influences and how rich a contribution we have made,
Mm.
will continue to make in the design space. It's not limited to interior design alone. Music, fashion, art, crafts, and to that end, we also, because of that, we make sure that we collaborate with local artisans to begin to tell that story. Continue to
Mm.
tell the story.
And I just love the idea of her telling the story.
Pioneer
Here we
was
are
started in
about
1987.
stories.
And it was predominantly as an interior designer and to work with local, again, local manufacturers. So I did that for a number of years, just my father being my first client. The manufacturing, dabbled into manufacturing in 1992. It was more as a solution to not finding local manufacturers that could meet the quality that my clients demanded of us as an industry. And that's another gap right now in the industry that we need to address.
Mm.
That inability to find the raw materials we require, bearing in mind that, again, we have to ensure that we protect our environment when we're doing that and make sure that
So
everything we're
finding
doing
that,
is
like
not going to erode
trying to close the gap. So
the
she's talking
environmental
about
aspect.
having the
Um,
materials to make the things that we're
so
trying to make,
sustainability is
and
key.
the availability of those
Um,
materials
the other
um,
reason I
creates a
decided to
gap.
practice in Nigeria, because I had the option of practicing elsewhere, is I
Because they're in
funded
Nigeria.
that investment in
I think I said this on the
industry
last one. I think
and
they're all in
I continue
Nigeria
because we've got so much to share and give to the rest of the world.
or related to Nigeria.
We've been offering interior design solutions since 1984. So to date, we've done, gosh, over 2,000 projects.
Ooh,
I can't remember all. Somewhere
she's done
actually more
2,000
wonderful,
projects. She out here working,
some a
y'all.
lot more challenging. But I'll just categorize them. We have done some
She
exciting
working.
projects, namely the Transcorp Hilton, Sheraton, Golden Tulip, and a lot of boutique hotels. So we actually pride ourselves on being the only interior design and furniture company in Nigeria that has worked and executed um, 3 or 4 international hotel chains. And then, of course, we've got the
Wow.
corporate
So
projects.
she's one of
I
the only
really
ones who's,
like,
designed
and I would say that's my favorite in
three or
terms
four
of
hotel chains.
execution, working,
I
working
mean,
and
it's
trying to come up with
gorgeous.
solutions for
Y'all need to watch this
working
because it's
space.
gorgeous. That I
Just more
cannot tell you
comfortable,
about.
working
It's
smart,
she has such a smart way of using
helping
lighting.
people where their well-being marries their
The lighting
productivity.
and the
So
shapes.
people, the focus and the philosophy in executing the workspaces, in ensuring that people feel well in their spaces, they feel secure, and it influences and increases their productivity. They are comfortable in that work environment. So the lighting is important. The texture of the work surface is important because you've got to make sure that the glare does not affect. You're sitting in front of the screen
See,
8
this is the
to
passion
12
of
14
interior
hours a
design
day.
that I love to
The
hear other people
chairs
talk about.
are
You got to make sure the
comfortable,
lighting is right. You got to make
and
sure the
easy to
fabrics are
hide.
right.
So these are all
Yes, girl.
considerations that
I'm with
factors
you.
that come into play that inform our corporate spaces. And then, of course, lastly, residential spaces. I find residential spaces a lot more challenging because it's very, very personal. You've got to
Residential spaces are
design
challenging because
those
they're
that
personal.
people own
Other
and live in
spaces
that
don't have to
space.
be so
And
personal, so
that's
there's certain things
constantly
that
an
you don't
issue
have
that
to
we
be
need to
concerned
address as
about.
designers to
But
ensure
with
that
residential
whatever it is
spaces,
we execute in that
it's very
residential space
important.
is a reflection of the owner and occupant of the space. So it's a lot more challenging because you've got to get into people's personality, lifestyle, likes and dislikes, colors to the furniture selection to textures to fabric. It's personal.
It's
Make sure you know
personal.
everything that there is to know about your craft, whether it is in pushing a service or a product. Just make sure that nobody understands your craft better than you. You have to understand your market. Get
Understanding your craft
reputation
and your
where you
market.
can. It's important. Forge relationships because at the end of the
Mm.
day, it's about relationships. You build relationships as you go along. Establish the trust with your collaborators because it's vital. You have to work with other people and um, constant be passionate about what you do. Try and find what really, really interests you, what you really enjoy doing, and focus on ensuring that you are the best and you become the best at what you do, and
Yes.
never be afraid to ask for help. There are always people there willing to help you. Never be afraid to ask for help. And of course, be bold.
Never be afraid to
Be
ask for
bold.
help.
Be bold. Be as bold as you can. But in being bold, make sure that you make very informed decisions. What's the worst? I have one or two, philosophies. The best one, the first one is before I take a decision on anything, whether in the personal space or in the professional space, what's the worst case scenario? I list it. And what's the best case scenario? Because in doing that, then you can come up with your informed decisions.
What's the best and the worst
Let me
case
give you an
scenario?
example.
Do that
When
in order to come
I
up with
was
an
able to set
informed
up the
decision.
manufacturing um,
That's
arm of
actually
IO, and I
pretty
went to
good.
BOI, the Bank of Industry, to get a loan,
If you know what's at
I
the
asked
top and what's
myself
at the
one
back,
simple question.
then you can make the decisions that you need to make in
What's the
order to
worst thing
do
that
what's
can
in the
happen?
middle.
The worst thing that can happen is you can't pay the loan and they repossess the factory. Is that okay? It's a gamble I'm willing to take because then I still have a roof over my head, still have a bed to lie on, my food, clothing, shelter is covered. Then I
Mm.
go for it. Best case, it works out very well, and then you're on that growth trajectory. So it's about making sure you ask yourself the really don't get away from the vital questions, and of course in business, do the numbers. The one person who said something that I've held on to, Warren Buffett. Don't A lot of us as women tend to be very, very emotional about making business decisions. In your personal life, of course, you can afford to be emotional, but when you're making business decisions, you have to be objective in the sense that just
I
understand.
don't know about this one.
Don't be
The
emotional in
idea
the
that
sense that
women tend to be more emotional in business and making business
situations
decisions.
working,
And I
it's not
find that
working.
men can be just as emotional. They're just
To work.
we're just always
There's
told
something
as
more
women
cosmetic
that we're more emotional than
ways
men. And
people
I don't really find that.
tweak and do all
I
of
mean, we
that.
are emotional
It's
beings,
not
but that doesn't mean that we have to speak out of emotion to make a decision. And even if we speak out of the emotion to make a decision, it
which I
doesn't mean
find
that we speak out
rich
of
in
less emotion
cultural
than men do.
heritage.
So
It brings
that part,
inspiration
not for
from
me.
um, traditional cultural functions like the Ayo Masquerade, the Argungu Fishing Festival, the Durbar, the Kano Durbar, because they're very, very colorful. Our music, the Arts and Craft School of Oshobo, 27/7s, and that entire genre of
Mm.
what is called, you call it primitive art. I don't think it's primitive art. I think it's wonderful cultural art to me.
They do often
Yeah,
call
as
a
Africans,
lot
I
of
think it's
African
really,
art
really
primitive.
art.
Um,
I
but
think
like she said, Picasso was strongly influenced by African art and culture. So
everything
do we
around
then call
us,
Picasso primitive because a lot of his stuff has the same kind of look and
the way we
feel?
entertain, our weddings, I find strong influence because we're very colorful. And the way we use colors, I think, is such a creative and exciting way. Um, and then, of course, the other place that influences me a lot is where I studied interior design, Italy. Because again, I find Italy, um, their, their rich um, heritage, Renaissance, that
Renaissance.
entire thing has influenced the world. Today's world in the 90s and 20s actually to this day shape how, as far as I'm concerned, Italy is the design capital of the world because that's where everybody goes there for inspiration. And every year, with the exception of last year because of COVID, I attend the Milan, the Furniture International Furniture Fair of Milan,
Oh,
just
in
to
Milan,
understand what's
the
new,
furniture design thing in
what's
Milan.
trending, and even as a society, we're evolving.
I will be
So you've
going
got to
one
keep
day.
up with demand. The demands are constantly changing, and one must keep abreast of what people want and what people desire.
It
And of
doesn't
course,
stay
part
the
of our role as
same, and we can't do
interior
design the way
designers is
that
to
we did
understand
it
people's requirements
10,
and
20
provide
years
them.
ago, not even
So
5 years ago. Everything
what
changes so
people want is a
quickly
great
with how people
frequency,
want and how people see
and
things
then
and
the
how stuff
ability to
works. And
ensure that having
as long
understood
as society
clearly
continues
what
to
you
change and
desire,
grow and adjust,
provide it.
so does the industry. So must the industry.
Ethnic is a spin-off of Eye Furniture, and the entire philosophy of ethnic is about promoting and working with our local African artisans and people through their arts and crafts and introducing the arts and crafts into African as a complementary service to our contemporary life. So from fabrics to cushions to furniture pieces, coffee tables, side tables, lamps, and accessories.
Side tables and
We
lamps,
decided that it would be
accessories.
useful to bring that into the mix and actually promote local artisans and the arts and crafts, all of it
Oh,
handmade. So we are involved in, to some extent, with some of the artisans in the range of products that they design. Some of it we design and get them to make for us, or we actually just take what they had. They have some really interesting pieces. For instance, in my home, that's an ethnic piece. The coffee table is an ethnic piece where we've used old dogon door and turned it into a functional coffee table. That's the story. It's about promoting our culture with the collaboration of local artisans, showing their arts and crafts. On my
A
typical
day
day,
in the
starts
life.
about 5
Let's see
a.m.
what the day in the life look like.
Say my
Look
prayers,
like.
ideally, exercise for half an hour. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, depending on my mood. I don't have breakfast. I may have a cup of herbal tea and then I drink tons of water and my day
So
starts.
no
Depending
breakfast,
on my
tons of
schedule, I
water,
either start at
and she
work
gets moving.
or start on a site.
Yeah,
And
I'll
of
drink a lot of water
course,
in the morning,
I
and
spend time
sometimes
with my dog,
I'll skip
Sarah Rich,
breakfast
a
too.
very feisty Rhodesia Ridgeback.
Um,
Take a good walk around
but
the
then
block with
again, by 10
my dog.
o'clock, your girl
The
hungry.
gardens, I
So
feed them,
I
spend
don't
time
know.
with
I'll
them,
just
and
eat when
then
I'm ready.
my day
I
starts.
eat when I'm good and
I
ready.
head out to the
I
office
don't
or the
necessarily
site, meeting with
eat
many guys
breakfast first thing in the morning because I usually don't want anything first thing in the morning. It's usually after I've been up for a couple hours. So if I get up at
And
6:30,
how
then I'll
does
eat at
this
8.
influence by design? So of course, the role that African arts and crafts plays is it's immeasurable. Um, the entire philosophy of the African culture, from our fabrics to our crockery to paintings, sculpture, it's a reflection of who we are as a race.
Mm.
It is so therefore the role that design plays is really, really powerful because it is a reflection of who we are as a people. And to get people to understand through our arts and crafts, through our interiors, through our paintings and our creativity, to tell the African story in the African way by the African people. That's how
See,
important it
that's
is. And I
important.
think it is,
So
I
she's
believe
talking
it is
about
the
how
responsibility of every
just
single
telling the story
designer,
of
be it a fashion
being
designer, an interior
African
designer, an
and the
architect,
idea that
an
their
artist,
art and their
to
fabric
always
and
have that
their
at the front
interiors
of their minds
and
that they're
the
telling the African
aesthetic,
story
it's
in African
important
way.
to show. It tells the culture, it tells people what they should know or what they should understand. Um, that was the end. It tells people what they should understand. And by doing so, you get the story from the very people who are creating the things, as opposed to someone telling the story, as opposed to some historian from England who decided to write about what African people are. You get Africans who created the art also telling the story of who they are as Africans. And that is a big difference. That is a big change because oftentimes that's not who's telling the story. so, um, this This episode was intriguing because it was introspective for me. It The way that she approaches design and the way she approaches her work is very similar to how I think and how I approach it. It's about people, it's about culture, and in capturing that, there's more to it than just simple simply putting things together. There's a level of passion there, and I could really feel it coming out as she was talking. And I really felt her intention in making sure that she incorporates as much of the culture as possible into what she does, not just because she's trying to incorporate culture, but it's because it's who she is and it's what she does and it's who her clients are. And she's able to do that in such a way that is separate from other people in other cultures because she's experienced those other cultures. And they then, in a way, have taught her more about herself and her own culture. It's why I think it's really important to, especially when you're doing something like design, you need to get out of your own way, get out of your own environment, get out of the bubble that you're used to living in, and go explore other things and go look at other things and be open to other people's perspectives, because therein is the real gold in understanding people and then creating the thing that they really want. So that is how I feel about that. That's my 2 cents. I have successfully put my nonfictions up. Well, the ones that I had downstairs. If I'm going to be honest, there's more. It's just they're just not all down here yet. But these are the smaller sized, you know, the ones that roughly this size and shape, and there's thicker ones, there's bigger ones, um, more reference stuff, other books, um, and then I have my series, the Big Thick series. So they haven't come downstairs yet. I keep them all together, the big series stuff. So, um, thanks for watching. This was a great episode. I cannot wait until I watch the next one. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you can get more about when I'm dropping, when I'm coming out, and then what's next. Because once this series is done, I'm already set up to do the next set. Okay? So I'm loving it. This was a good watch. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye bye.